Hello, U.S. history students. I want to start off this lesson today with having you just take a look here at this image. Have you ever seen this before? Irish need not apply. This used to be something you would see on the front of businesses or in newspapers. Irish need not apply. See, look, you can see right here, this is from the New York Times. It's a wanted ad, and it says Irish need not apply, and this was very common. You would see this often during this time period we're studying with immigration in the mid-1800s to late 1800s. It was discrimination against the Irish. You're going to see this against the Italians and other groups during this time period, these anti-immigrant attitudes. Why were there so many of these anti-immigrant attitudes at the time? What was fueling them? Well, that is something you're going to discover more in today's lesson. Okay, so let me see. I hope I didn't lose it. There we go. Okay, so yes, the title of today's lesson is Anti-Immigrant Attitudes. The learning target is I can explain the anti-immigrant sentiment, that just means feeling, during the Industrial Revolution in America. Oh, I did have an interesting question for you, though. I'm just curious, do you think this sort of ad would be allowed today? So imagine you see a wanted ad or even a sign hanging from a store saying Irish need not apply. Or blacks need not apply, or women need not apply. Just think about that for a second. How do you think that would go in today's culture? Okay, so I'm going to leave you with that thought. All right, so now what are you doing to learn about this, to discover more about these anti-immigrant attitudes during this time? And this is really the focus of the whole summit checkpoint. You're just breaking it down into the different time periods. And this week in particular, you're going to look at it during this Industrial Revolution from like mid-1800s to late 1800s, turn of the century, 1900. And to learn more about this, so I'm helping you in my lesson as well. We're going to study this, and we're going to look in particular at a political cartoon. Now, there are different ways I could have gone about this. There are really good political cartoons out there that show you the anti-immigrant feelings this country had. But I decided to just focus on one and have you do it really well because I'm teaching you how to analyze political cartoons in this lesson. And this is a really important skill, so please make sure you go through and read this here so you understand, because you're going to be analyzing political cartoons a lot more as we go on throughout the year. So you will be looking at a political cartoon in this lesson to examine attitudes toward immigration, but first you need to know how to properly analyze political cartoons, as I just said. Political cartoonists use a variety of persuasive techniques to get their message across to viewers. So they're trying to get you to think a certain way, to see their point of view. Read this article from the Library of Congress to learn about these techniques. So this is a great overview of political cartoons and what they use, these persuasive techniques: symbolism, exaggeration, labeling, analogy, irony. So just read through that. That's a short read. And then here is a guide. Also that you could, if you wanted to print this out and just maybe always have this handy. I don't know if you have a certain notebook you use for this class, but that'd be a good printable for you. But anyway, so you want to read that. And that'll help you then for this cartoon you're going to analyze and then going forward in the class. Then I also, for content-wise on this topic, I want you to read this summary of the challenges immigrants faced when they entered America. So here, I just want you to read the historical background. And it talks about the know-nothings. And you're going to see that is in the summit. You may have already read that, I think, last week. If not last week, this week. But and there's Ellis Island. So it's a short read. And you can just, ignore the rest of it. I want you to read these first 3 pages. It's just a nice summary of the challenges or the anti-immigrant attitudes they faced. Okay. And then I want you to watch here. Now, my watch isn't a video. It's the political cartoon. And it's a political cartoon titled Looking Backwards. And I want you to analyze this after learning about the techniques, okay? And you're going to use under the do column, you're going to use this political cartoon analysis worksheet. Remember how you did one of these to analyze a photograph? Well, you're going to do that now for a cartoon. So the first thing, you just want to meet the cartoon. You want to quickly scan it. What do you notice first? What is the title or caption? You want to observe its parts. What words do you see? What visuals, people, objects, places? What actions are going on? Try to make sense of it. So which words or phrases are the most significant? List adjectives that describe the emotions portrayed. What visuals do you see? Which of them are symbols? What do they stand for? Who drew it? When is it from? What was happening at the time of history it was created? What is the message? List evidence from the cartoon or your knowledge about the cartoonist that led to your conclusion. So that's kind of like the big thing. What is the message that this is trying to portray? So you notice how you start at the very obvious. You're just observing things. And then you kind of get deeper and deeper into it until you come up with the main idea. And then use it as historical evidence. What did you find out from the cartoon that you might not learn anywhere else? What other documents or historical evidence are you going to use to help you understand this event or topic? So what I'm really interested in, though, here is if you could figure out the main idea of the cartoon, because a lot of people, especially students, have a hard time figuring out what a political cartoon is trying to tell you. It is a good skill to be able to analyze these. So here is, and I'm having you make a copy. Here's the political cartoon. It's called Looking Backward, and it's by Joseph Kepler, and it appeared in a magazine titled Puck in 1893. So walk through what I just did there, that worksheet. Okay, and I also have a copy of it here, the worksheet, to decipher the main idea. And there were so many good cartoons I could have chosen from, but I didn't want to overwhelm you with a ton of cartoons. So I'm just focusing on one, and I really like this one because there's a lot of irony in this. And I don't want to give too much away here, but so I want you to try to decipher this, okay? And we'll see if you can get to the main idea of this and what your thoughts are on it. So you're going to do that, and then here is where I'll see if you got the main idea. What was the main idea the political cartoonist was trying to portray in Looking Backwards? So that is what I want you to put there. Evaluate. To assess what you have learned about it, you're going to take this matching quiz and Quizlet. So here's where you're learning. You want to make sure you do the reading about these anti-immigrant attitudes and what they faced. Then I have a little review about Ellis Island in there. Okay, you will use the knowledge you have gained in this lesson on anti-immigrant attitudes in the United States, in addition to the checkpoint resources, to answer the checkpoint industrialization and immigration. And there's several COG skills that you're being assessed on with it. And then, as always, you have the self-assessment. So let me just go into Summit, show you where we're at. We're on attitudes toward immigration. Okay. And now we've done 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're on the 5th checkpoint this week. So you always have 2 checkpoints a week. My checkpoint and a Summit one. And mine usually goes hand in hand with the Summit one. Just try to help you and give you more resources. Some are a little maybe friendlier, maybe even more interesting, the political cartoon, just to help you figure out how to answer this question here. So what do they want you to do? You're going to use a document set. This should be very familiar to you because it's always the same thing. You're going to look at this document set, complete a graphic organizer. Right here. highlighting favorable attitudes, unfavorable attitudes, highlight comparisons to attitudes in other time periods. Because now we're at the point, so you're going to scroll through these, that you can start making some comparisons, because now we're looking at this time period of the Industrial Revolution, which is about mid-1800s to late 1800s. And you can start comparing it to the Civil War era and the post-Civil War era, which is Reconstruction, to the Industrial Revolution era. So you're just going to look at, have attitudes change? Have they stayed the same? If they did change, why are they changing? What's going on in that time period that's causing people to feel this way toward immigrants? Were there any different acts or laws passed? All right, let's see if that... Okay, here it is. Okay, so the supporting question, how did the context of industrialization, so how did the setting, this time period of industrialization, impact opinions about immigration during industrialization? So you're going to answer that there. Now it's getting into copy and paste your compare and contrast sections from the Reconstruction and Immigration Graphic Organizer and from the Industrialization and Immigration Graphic Organizer below. So now it's actually having you just copy and paste what you already did in the previous graphic organizers of the other checkpoints. So if you did them, then it's easy. But if you didn't do your graphic organizers, these sections from before, you're going to have to go back and do them. So, so what it wants you to do is you're just doing a compare and contrast between these opinions toward immigrants for all these different eras. So, how did they feel about immigrants during Reconstruction and the Civil War? How about during industrialization and Reconstruction? How about during industrialization and the Civil War? So that's what you're going to do this week. And, if you have, I wanted to point out too, they also have this here. This activity guides you through some different thought-provoking questions to help you connect some of, your answers together. So here, if you want to read through this, it might help you. What patterns can you see between the historical context and how people felt about immigration in these time periods? What types of events in history seem to impact opinions about immigration in a more positive way? So I'll let you read that to yourself, but that's just something you can do to kind of help you to think through these ideas a little bit more. Okay, so if you have any questions as you're working on this, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. You know where to find me. Just send me a hangout, and I'll get right back to you. All right, you have a wonderful week.